Hello dear students, welcome back to Abhiram IAS Academy, episode 2. In this video, we are going to analyze APPSC Group 1 2024 previous year questions, MCQs from Polity section. So in the last session, we have discussed 5 MCQs, we have analyzed it detailed way, and in this session, we are going to discuss another 5 MCQs. So before getting into the session, I would like to share this news with you, which is Project Digvijaya intense prelims test series program that Abhiram IAS Academy is coming up with from this August 31st. This is going to be very intense and rigorous prelims test series program where you will be writing around 4,440 plus MCQs, which are expert curated MCQs across all subjects. This is currently available at 40% offer, which is at 5,999, that is 6,000 rupees. So admissions are open. Call to this number, or you can directly walk into Abhiram IAS Academy office and you can inquire about this course. Now let's get into the MCQs, which is 2024 screening test paper, APPSC PYQ analysis, Polity. We will be discussing previous year questions, techniques, traps and the elimination method. Chalo, it's a 36th question from Election Commission of India. We all know that Constitution of India 1949 has provided for Election Commission of India under Article 324 to 329 of the article, where it will be responsible for superintendents. It will be responsible for superintendents, direction and control of elections to Parliament, State Legislature, and Office of the President, and Vice President of India. So, Election Commission of India responsible for the conduct of democratic elections to the Office of President of India, Vice President of India, and to the Parliament and State Legislative Assemblies. So these are the responsibilities of Election Commission of India under Article 324. The Election Commission of India, which came into force in 1950 as a single member constitutional body. However, in 1989, the Election Commission of India began as a single member body. 2 additional election commissioners were appointed, making it temporarily 3-member body. However, it was later in 1989, Election Commission of India, which was earlier only single member body, and later it became 1 chief election commissioner and 2 election commissioners. Then in 1990, again it reverted back to single election commissioner, single member body, and from 1993 onwards, again it is started functioning as a 3-member body. So this is the historical evolution of composition of an Election Commission of India. So currently 1 chief election commissioner is there, 2 election commissioners are there, and few other regional commissioners are appointed by the Chief Election Commission of India. So this is brief composition of Election Commission. Now let's get into the statements. Let's read the first question here. Question number 36. Consider the following statements with reference to the Election Commission of India. As I said before, it comes under Article 324 to 329 of the Constitution of India. The first statement here is the Constitution of India has debarred the retiring election commissioners from any further appointment by the government. If you read Article 324 to 329, nowhere the Constitution of India has mentioned about Election Commissioner of India's future job role. The Constitution of India did not debar any election commissioners from any further appointment. So it is deliberate trap and factual mistake. So that was intentionally set up by the APPSC. So you can outrightly eliminate the option number, statement number 1. So where the statement number 1 is there. In option 4, there is a statement 1 is there. So we can eliminate the fourth option here. And the second statement, if we read here clearly, it is about Anu Baranwal case 2025. That Anu Baranwal case says that, what statement is saying here? The Supreme Court has directed the government to treat the regional commissioners on par with election commissioners other than the chief election commissioner as far as removal from office is concerned. Here he is saying that removal from office is concerned. Okay, let's check this latter. Keep it on hold. And the third statement, since its inception, the Election Commission had functioned as a multi-member body. The Election Commission of India came into force in 1950. As we discussed it in 2 minutes before, it is saying that since inception, and since 1950, Election Commission has functioned as a multi-member body. No. When the Election Commission of India came into force in 1950, it is just a single member body, not a multi-member body. First it was a single member body, then it was added 2 election commissioners. Again in 1990, the multi-member body was removed and it came back to single election commissioner, that is chief election commissioner. And then after 1990, again Election Commission of India brought few reforms and chief election commissioner and 2 election commissioners are started functioning in implementation of elections across in India. So currently it is a multi-member body, but when it was incepted, it was a single member body only. So outrightly we can eliminate the third statement in this question. So third statement was there in option number 1. So we can remove the first option here. Now we have third option and second option, which is only 2 and only 4. Now let's read the fourth statement here. The fourth statement says that the power of superintendence, direction and control of election to the office of Vice President of India is vested in the Election Commission. Is there anything wrong here? What does Article 324 of the Constitution says? The Article 324 of the Constitution says the power of superintendence, direction and control of election to the Parliament, to the state legislative assemblies, to the President of India and to the office of Vice President of India. The elections to all these offices will be conducted by Election Commission of India itself. So option 4 is true. So we can go for, statement 4 is true. So we can go for option 2. Only 4 is the right answer here. So let's check its analysis. So as we discussed, yes, only statement 4 correctly reflects the constitutional mandate of the Election Commissioner under Article 324. The statement 1 is incorrect, statement 2 is incorrect, statement 3 is also incorrect. So please go through these slides. Please pause for a minute and read this slide. You will understand what are the deliberate traps that APPSC has put in its exam setting up. Next, the question number 2. It is on center-state relation, that is federalism. The federal structure of the Constitution, so federalism of Indian polity. You are aware of what is federalism here. Let me collect one statement. Yeah, K.C. Weir said that Indian constitutional arrangement is called as quasi-federalism. That means India has a federal structure with strong center. So that is called as quasi-federalism. That was statement given by K.C. Weir. Now read the statements here. Let's check the statements. In the context of center-state relations, which of the following statements are valid? Okay, let's check. The first statement here is the Panchi Commission. One second. Yes, the Panchi Commission had recommended that the procedure that is followed for the removal of president should also be applicable for the impeachment of governors as well. Okay, cool. Second statement, the law that is made by the parliament with respect to any matter in the state list in relation to the state in which president's rule is imposed cannot be reenacted by the state legislature after the president rule is ended. Okay, he is using the extreme here, cannot be reenacted. Okay, any law that was passed by the Parliament of India during president rule is there. He is saying that that cannot be reenacted by the state legislature. No, it is wrong. The third statement, the Sarkaria Commission was not the first to recommend the establishment of the Interstate Council. True, the Sarkaria Commission is not the first. Before Sarkaria Commission, there is a one office called Administrative Reforms Commission. First, ARC has recommended certain organization or any administrative setup to organize the all center and states together. That is known as Interstate Council was first recommended by the ARC itself. So it is before State Sarkaria Commission. So it is true. Statement 3 is true. So where is 3 there? Yeah. So 3 is not then option number 2. So we can eliminate the second option. And where is 2 is there? Since 2 is wrong, statement 2 is wrong. So we can eliminate third option. Next, only 3 and 1, 3, 4 is there. What is fourth statement here? Fourth is the determinant statement now. So if we could crack the fourth statement, we can arrive at the answer. Only the Lok Sabha can pass a resolution declaring that it is necessary in the national interest that the parliament should make laws with respect to goods and service tax. Only the Lok Sabha. Here is saying that only the Lok Sabha can pass the resolution. It's wrong. It's wrong. Only Rajya Sabha can do that actually. If you read the 249, one second, we can erase it. Now let's recollect few facts here. Article 249, Article 249 of the Constitution of India says that Rajya Sabha can pass the resolution on any issue that was mentioned in the state list, on any subject that was mentioned in the state list, where it can deliberately transfer the power of lawmaking to the center or to the Lok Sabha from the state legislature under Article 249. Only Rajya Sabha can do that. But here they are saying that only the Lok Sabha can pass a resolution. So it is wrong. So option 4 can be eliminated here. So statement 4 can be eliminated here. So the answer here is only 3. So only 3 is the right. So only 1 and 3 is the right answer here. Okay. Check the answer now. So it's true. Yeah, statement 1 is true and statement 3 is also true. Correct. So statement 1 and 3 are valid. 2 falsely makes the president rule law permanent. Yes, once the president rule was removed, the state legislature will be restored with its power to amend whatever the law or ordinance or resolution that was implemented in the state when the president rule was continuing. So once the president rule was removed, the state legislature has its power to remove the law or make any amendments to that particular law that was passed during president rule. So final answer here is 1 and 3. Next. Now the distribution of tax revenues. It comes under fiscal federalism. Fiscal federalism. Okay. In fact, see, if you clearly read it, there are 2 types of taxes. Shareable taxes and non-shareable taxes. What is non-shareable taxes? It is also called as divisible pool of taxes. In divisible pool of taxes, when center levies the tax and center collects the tax, but the taxes that were collected by the center will also be distributed, will also be divided among the states. It is known as vertical devolution of funds. If you read the Finance Commission, you will get to understand what is vertical devolution of funds and horizontal devolution of funds. So any devolution of funds from the center goes to the states. It is known as divisible pool of taxes. For example, divisible pool of taxes are like income tax, corporation tax. Next, even GST is also part of divisible pool of taxes, state GST for example. So these are all comes under shareable taxes, and non-shareable taxes are some taxes which is, for example, surcharges. Surcharges are not completely collected, levied by the center and collected by the center and also appropriated by the center. So it comes under non-shareable taxes, which is not part of divisible pool of taxes. Now read the statements here. So this is briefly about fiscal federalism. Now if you read a statement here, question, consider the following statements in connection with the distribution of tax revenues between the center and the state. Okay, the statement number 1, the proceeds of the surcharges that are levied on taxes and duties referred to in Article 269 and 270 of the Constitution of India would be shared between the center and the states. Okay, see, we don't 269, 270 ante ento manaku telida anukundamu. What here the statement 1 is saying, the surcharges are shared between the center and the states అని చెప్తున్నారు. Okay, fine, we'll check it later. Keep it question mark. Next, Article 268A and 272 of the Constitution of India were both repealed by the same Constitution Amendment Act. Okay. Statement number 3, tax on the sale of petroleum crude is levied by the center but collected by the states. Statement number 4, the net proceeds of tax categories that are falling under Article 269 of the Constitution of India do not form a part of consolidated fund of India. See, as of my understanding, the surcharges are not distributed between the center and the state. So I'll eliminate the statement number 1. Where statement number? So I can eliminate the option 4. Next, only 4, only 3, 2 and 4. See, the 268A and 272 of the Constitution of India were both repealed by the same Constitution. I think it's a trap. So I'll eliminate this one. Statement 2 is eliminated here, so that I can eliminate the option number 1 also. Now the fight is there between only 3 and only 4. The net proceeds of tax categories that are falling under Article 269 of the Constitution of India do not form a part of the consolidated fund of India. Let's recollect the statement Article 269 here. Article 269 says that there are certain taxes that are levied by the union, collected by the union, but distributed or appropriated or assigned to the states. So when certain revenues are assigned to the states, it cannot become the part of consolidated fund of India. So the net proceeds of tax categories that are falling under Article 269 of the Constitution of India do not form a part of the consolidated. Okay, it's true. Only 4. So only 4 is here. So I think option 2 is the answer here. Let's check the answer now. Yes, only 4 is correct here. Surcharge, they mentioned surcharge, which is incorrect. Surcharges are not distributed. It is completely goes to the consolidated fund of India, which is union revenue. Okay, now let's get into another MCQ, which is on Human Rights Commission. So Human Rights Commission, so if we go back to the basic static information we have about Human Rights Commission. National Human Rights Commission which is a statutory body, that was established under the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. Under this Protection of Human Rights Act, NHRC was formed. NHRC and State Human Rights Commissions was formed. So, many people think Human Rights Commission, whether it is NHRC or State Human Rights Commission, is part of constitutional bodies, but it is not. It is a statutory body that was established under the Protection of Human Rights Act. So let's read the statements here once. You all know what are the functions of Human Rights Commission. It generally inquires into the state's atrocities where the state or any administrator or any violation of human rights or any fundamental rights happens. So Human Rights Commissions involved there and try to get the justice done to the victims of the state. Here, now the statement number, let's read the question again here. Which of the following statement are correct in relation to the Human Rights Commissions in India? The statement number 1, the role to undertake functions relating to human rights in the Union Territory of Ladakh may be conferred upon a state human rights commissions by the central government. If there is any human rights issues are there in the Union Territories, why would central government delegate the human rights violation issues to any state human rights commission? Is there any logic in that particular statement? No. Any issue or any governance matter that is related to the Union Territory of Ladakh or any other Union Territory such as Puducherry or Delhi, the administrative issues, especially the human rights issues, are governed by the National Human Rights Commission only. So its statement number 1 is wrong. So where there is statement 1, the option will be eliminated. So option 4 is eliminated here. Next, only 2 persons can be appointed as a members of National Human Rights Commission under the category of possessing knowledge or practical experience with respect to human rights. Okay, we'll put on hold. I don't know whether it is 2 persons or 1 person or 3 person. Okay. The third statement here is the president can remove the chairperson of State Human Rights Commission on the grounds of proven misbehavior. However, the president has to seek the opinion of the Supreme Court in this manner. Okay. It is saying that the president can remove the chairperson of the Human Rights Commissions on the grounds of proved misbehavior. However, the president has to seek the opinion of the Supreme Court in this. Fair, it is true. The fourth statement here, the National Human Rights Commission is not empowered to inquire into any matter after the expiry of 2 years from the date on which the act constituting violation of human rights is alleged to have been committed. Okay, see, the entire statement is true, but it is here the doubt is coming. Whether the National Human Rights Commission can take up the case or any issue after expiration of 2 years. It is doubtful. It is not 2 years. We can eliminate it. It is 1 year only, I think. Only 1 year. So option 4, statement 4 is wrong. So I will eliminate third option here. And here also 4 is there. So I will eliminate second one. So none. The answer is none here. But the point here is the statement 3 is right. But here we don't have the option number of only 3. So either only 3 should be there or the question should be deleted here. So whatever the none is there, it is wrong. So the question setter has made wrong here. So we should be careful with that. Or it could be trap also. Safely we'll go for option 1, none. So statement 1 is incorrect. UT exception, trap. So under the adopted law, human rights functions for Ladakh are dealt with by the NHRC. As I said before, Union Territory law jarige human rights violations will be taken up by NHRC. So central government will not delegate those powers to any state human rights commissions. It will be within the ambit of National Human Rights Commission only. Next, statement number 2, incorrect as we said. After the 2019 amendment, NHRC has 3 members in the human rights expertise category with at least 1 woman anta. But the statement provides only 2 people. It's wrong. So it is incorrect. Statement 3 is correct. Statement 4 incorrect. So why this answer on the statutory text, statement 3 alone is valid, but the only 3 is not there in the options. So we'll safely go with the option number 1, none. Next, delimitation. You all know the concept of delimitation. So now read the statement here. Which of the following statement or statements can be attributed correctly to the exercise of delimitation? So first let us understand what is delimitation here. The basic understanding of delimitation. I'll write here. Delimitation means fixing or redrawing the territorial boundaries of electoral constituencies so that any representation reflects population distribution. So that is delimitation. For example, let's understand here. Here one constituency is there. Here constituency B is there. Constituency A and constituency B. Constituency A is represented by certain person X. Constituency B is represented by a person called Y. The constituency X has 3 lakh voters. The constituency B has 6 lakh voters. But for the entire 3 lakh voters, there is only one representative called X, and constituency B also, for entire constituency B, which has 6 lakhs voters, 6 lakhs population, but it is represented by only one representative called Y. So there is unequal representation is there. So it is in the violation of principle of one man, one vote, one value. So to correct this unequal representation, whatever the unequal representation is going on, to correct this, the delimitation concept came forward. So this is brief understanding of delimitation, where the constituency rearrangement takes place based on the population. For example, there are 10 lakhs people are 10 in certain area, 10 lakhs in certain district, 10 lakh population is there, or else voters. To ensure one man one vote principle, 10 lakh population will be divided into 3 constituencies A, B, C. So constituency A will have 3 lakhs, constituency B has 3 lakhs, constituency C also has 3 lakhs. So this is how the population will be rearranged, so that one man, one vote, one value will be ensured. So let's read the statements now. So which of the following statements can be attributed correctly to the exercise of delimitation? So statement number 1 here, the principle of one man, one vote reiterates the need for the exercise of delimitation. Obviously, the statement number 1 is right. There is no need to think about it. So statement 1 should be there in the options. So here option 1 is there. In the option 3, there is no state 1. In option 2, there is no 1. So the remaining one is 1 and 4. 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. So 4 is there here and 4 is there here. So 4 is right. And the 2, let's check 2 and 3. What is 2 here? The government of India can set up delimitation commission for the purpose of delimitation of parliamentary and assembly constituencies in select few states or union territories. Okay. The statement number 3. The delimitation commission can only recommend the delimitation commission can only recommend the redelimitation of territorial, parliamentary and assembly constituencies, but cannot recommend on the reservation of seats for the SCs and STs. This is wrong. This is an extreme, cannot. And also, see, any delimitation must adhere to the principle of reservations. So it is wrong. So statement 3 should be eliminated. Okay. So the remaining option is 1, 2, 4 is true. Let's check the answer here. Yes, 1 is true, 2 is true, 4 is true. So this is the answer. Please read this analysis. Please pause for a minute and read it. Next. So these are the 5 MCQs that were given by the APPSC in the 2024 question paper. So again I am repeating here. So Abhiram IAS Academy is coming up with Project Digvijaya APPSC Group 1 Intense Films Test Series program, which is going to be launched on August 31st. So the program is going to start from August 31st, where 28 sectional tests will be provided, 7 sectional full length tests will be provided, and 8 simulators, that is paper 1 and paper 2. Combinedly will provide 16 papers in 8 simulators. So currently it is running on offer, 40% offer is there, which is selling at around 6,000 rupees. So utilize this opportunity and excel yourself in solving MCQs. So this is going to be very standard prelims test series program. So thank you for watching this. Stay tuned for the next session. Thank you.